Democrats are a bit of a scramble after President Biden's announcement that he's dropping out of the race for the White House. Biden endorsed Vice President Harris to run in his place.
Republicans are already criticizing her record, and she could face competition within her own party for the nomination. CBN's Dale Hurd has the story.
President Biden's announcement that he'll step down from the race got mostly positive reactions from Democratic leaders from across the political spectrum. Liberal California Governor Gavin Newsom, moderate Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, and squad member Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are all backing Harris.
Kamala Harris, as our Democratic presidential nominee, is going to bring an X factor.
She's been hitting the campaign trail hard. She's been raising money. I'm confident that she will have the delegates. She will have the resources.
Conspicuously absent so far have been Harris endorsements from Barack and Michelle Obama and Democratic leaders on Capitol Hill, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said Sunday he thinks Harris will be easier to defeat in November's election than Joe Biden. Kamala Harris was California's first female attorney general, making headlines for enacting criminal justice reform before going on to the Senate. An RNC spokeswoman, Elizabeth Pipko, says Harris's record will be a liability.
Look, her record in California is just one of the things that she has to answer for. There's that weak record. There's also the record of this administration, right? The policies they've put forth, which are proving to not be popular with the American people.
And Joe Biden's withdrawal from the race sends the Democrats' nomination process into uncharted territory. For Democrats who have been wanting Biden to drop out after his disastrous debate performance, this could be a case of be careful what you wish for. Despite apparent widespread support for Harris in the party, Biden's exit sets up the possibility of an open convention to choose his successor as the Democratic nominee. Democrats have until August 7th to get a nominee on the ballot in all 50 states. New York Democratic Congressman Richie Torres warned that anyone musing about a romanticized free-for-all at the Democratic National Convention is living in a dangerous fantasy land and is asking for a continuation of the chaos and confusion that has consumed Washington, D.C. And the clock is ticking for any other Democratic hopeful who might challenge Harris. Major questions remain for Harris, who says she will earn the nomination and is reportedly already talking to potential vice presidential candidates. The DNC Rules Committee meets Wednesday to create a framework to select a new nominee. President Biden says he'll address the nation this week to further explain his decision. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, our chief political analyst, David Brody, is with us for more. David, you've been working real hard. I really appreciated what you did on CBN News yesterday. It was really expert commentary. Is it a lock for Harris, or are we going to see some kind of contested convention?
No, it's a lock. Look, all 50 Democrat state party chairmen have come out, chairmen and chairwomen have come out for Harris. That's huge. The Clintons have come out, for her, and of course Biden endorsed her. As Dale pointed out, we haven't heard from Barack Obama and Pelosi yet specifically about whether or not they're going to endorse Harris, but I believe that'll just be at some point down the road. I think they want to give the impression that this is a bit of an open process so they can let democracy breathe a little bit. But look, this is a fait accompli, and I think at this point the conversation will turn to who she is going to choose as her vice presidential running mate.
Well, why have the Obamas not come out publicly for her? They seem to be waiting for the convention. Why?
Well, I think there's a sense and a feel within the Democrat Party, and Republicans have pushed this narrative that the oligarchs are running the party inside the Democratic National Committee. And so I think the Obamas and others are sensitive to this idea that they're calling the shots. You know, there's been all this talk about how Obama and his folks have really been calling the shots when Biden's been in office. So I think they want to distance themselves from some of that talk, but eventually I think they'll get on board.
Well, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the vice president? What challenges are there? We're already seeing attack ads coming out. So what, in your view, are our biggest weaknesses?
Well, there's a couple things. There's quite a few things actually, but the big kind of overall 3,000 foot or 30,000 foot view, if you will, is that she's tied to Biden's policies, but she's going to try to separate herself from the president to a degree and be her own woman, man, whatever you want to call it. Well, I guess in this case it'd be a woman. But the point is that she has to kind of do that tap dance. The problem is she is tied to all of those policies, as Dale pointed out. And remember, she was the, quote, border czar. That was what President Biden had called her. So she's going to have to own the immigration issue. And of course, as we know, the economy and immigration 1-2 right there at the top of all polls. So that's the problem. There's so many other problems. She's going to have to answer questions as to, wait a minute, if you knew about Joe Biden's mental acuity decline over the last few months or few years, why in the world did you not, in essence, raise it or say anything? And I understand you want to be a good foot soldier. I get that publicly. But where was the internal discussions about what's going on here? She didn't say anything about that, apparently. And so that's going to have the Trump campaign basically says, if you can't trust her on that, then why in the world would you trust her on anything else? There's a litany of things. We haven't even gotten to the eloquence issue. They're going to already the Trump campaign's already going to put kind of these word salad sound bites out there where she got kind of mumbled on the words. Kamala Harris, her problem from a communication standpoint is that she's not great on the big idea, kind of like what the vision aspect of communicating the message. She is very good on the granular. She's a former prosecutor. She's able to prosecute a case within an actual topic. But to go grander and bigger, which a president needs to do, she's not there.
Well, I would actually say her support for Biden is in her favor in terms of a trust issue. She could say, well, he picked me to be the vice president, and in return, I owe him my loyalty, and I owe him my loyalty to the end. He made a decision to step down, and now I'm thrust into the limelight. I'm now the presidential nominee, and, let's move forward. I actually think it proves her loyalty.
Yeah, I think actually it's a good point. I think that's really the way she gets out of it and spins her way out of it for sure. And look, there's a couple other things that are going in her favor. I mean, let's remember, you're going from an 82-year-old who clearly had mental acuity issues and the age issue to a 59-year-old vibrant, energetic person. That right there is impressive, or I say impressive, will give them a different energy going forward. You have a media that's going to, in essence, go forward with a narrative saying, look, history could be in the making here. You have the potential first black woman president. So you're going to have that wind at your in the sails there. And then, of course, you have the abortion issue, which has been very good for Democrats politically. And it's really one of her strong suits in terms of how she communicates and talks about that issue. So if you put all three of those together, look, she's got a puncher's chance, maybe even more than a puncher's chance here.
Well, you said before she needs to be her own woman. I think the abortion issue is absolutely what she's going to stake out and what she's going to run on. Let's talk about some of the things that have happened in the press recently. There was a report that she was on a phone call with 300 prominent Democrat donors, and it turned into a mess. And this is all before Biden made his decision, so maybe it's ancient history now. But, is she of the same appeal to that base, the big donor base?
Well, they're going to have no choice. That's the issue at this point, Gordon. Look, if they could put a candidate in a lab and put that person out there with a couple of years running, it would not be Kamala Harris, but it is going to be Kamala Harris. So they're not thrilled necessarily. But the bigger problem for Kamala Harris is she's had managerial issues before. She had a presidential campaign, as you know, back in 2020. She had to end that even before Iowa because she had managerial issues as it relates to staff and how they ran that campaign. Look for an Obama longtime staffer to potentially come in and help in that situation, like a David Plouffe, someone who maybe David Axelrod, but probably not. But a David Plouffe could be a potential here to basically run the ship for Kamala.
Well, you pointed out yesterday that we should all expect a charm offensive in the press. And I think it's already started. This morning, I read a report about her 10-hour, 12-hour marathon, talking to 100 top Democrats, lining up support, how she was in the vice president's mansion and wearing her Howard sweats and ordering pizza with anchovies because she was so busy with all these phone calls, she couldn't have a proper meal. So has that already started?
Oh, it has started for sure. And so I think ultimately the rubber will meet the road on the campaign trail. You know, one of the knocks on Kamala Harris is that she's much better in private, actually. When I say private, in one-on-one conversations, more personable than she is on stage and in public and in the grand event. So we're going to wait to see exactly how that plays out, because right now, the private persona and the public persona are not tracking, and that's going to be an issue to watch as we move forward.
Any handicapping on the choice of a running mate? How key is this to choose the right running mate?
I got to tell you, this one will be very important because of a couple different reasons. One, Kamala Harris, obviously new to the scene. And when I say new to the scene, I mean, she is new to politics to a degree. But beyond that, I think they're going to need someone to help her in some of the swing states. You look at Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. That could be a possibility. He's considered a little bit more of a moderate Democrat, which, quite frankly, not many moderate Democrats left today. Just call him a classic liberal instead of a far left liberal. And then you've got Andy Beshear down in Kentucky, the two-term governor, Democrat governor in conservative Kentucky. That's someone to look at, though he doesn't help you electorally. So Josh Shapiro might be the pick there. But then there's one guy, Gordon, that if I had to pick anybody, it could be this guy, Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, former astronaut. He's got the resume. Former astronaut, U.S. senator, former United Navy captain, has been in the Gulf War. Very kind of not moderate, but he's kind of a classic liberal. But at the same time, he's kind of folksy, kind of a regular guy. They need Arizona to win. Everybody talks about Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Yeah, they need those. But if they don't get Arizona or they don't get Georgia, the three Rust Belt states won't matter. They've got to pick up one of those two. So Arizona could be a potential, and therefore Mark Kelly could be the guy.
All right. Well, David, thanks for the insight. And again, you're going to have a very, very busy year.
For sure.
Thanks for being with us.